Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff. We do it here. A little bit of hopeful barrel-aged collabed goodness in the form of side project and private press brewing. A little collab goodness. There's Sound Cycle Volume 1. I have two of these. I have Volume 1, Volume 2. I actually got these at a silent auction while I was at Log Jamming in Philadelphia. One silent auction got two of these bottles. I'm going to pump dive into them. Side project, most of you probably know. Corey King out there in the Midwest making all his beers, barrel-aged stuff, mixed firm stuff, all kinds of good stuff out that way. Private Press is a little bit different of a beast. Side project, you can just go up and kind of go to the brewery. This is a kind of a members only stout kind of barley wine club beer. Ex head brewer and barrel aged extraordinaire from used to be at Jackie O's, but now is at his own jam doing that. Brad Clark, he collabed with them with this, and I'm just assuming, two of the heavy hitters when it comes to really well done barrel aged stuff. I was pumped to dive into them. It was really weird. They had a bunch of sound auctions going on at the at log jamming, and this one just no one bid on it. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna kind of bid on it, and they won it. So here we go. You're talking about a barrel aged. We'll talk about it when we actually give this thing a decent pour. As expected, it looks like the darkest thing in the darkest of darks of all times. Man, it is dark. This be a, let's see, it's a Imperial Stout Asian Burn Barrels at 15% alcohol by volume. Like I said, this is Volume 1, brewed, blended, and bottled by Side Project Brewing in St. Louis, Missouri, a collaboration private press. Label-wise, fantastic. Minimalistic. It's got that little kind of, little geometric sound wave kind of graphic-y thing going on. It looks very, very pretty. And as far as barrel-aged beers go, good God, look at that. Look at the legs on that sucker. I'll give it another whirl and just give you a full effect on this sucker. Like, it is just dark, clinging to the side of the glass. Dark as dark could be, super, super thick, Florida thick, 5C thick as far as what it looks like, at least when you give it a whirl. And then that head on there, it is good. It's got this rich mahogany to this dark colored head. So it has all the parts going on of what you'd expect from a really big, boisterous kind of barrel-aged stout. Like I said, two of the more kind of like, I want to say Mount Rushmore status, probably, if not on there, very, very close. There's a lot of really great barrel-aged programs, but, Side Project is obviously one of the more kind of coveted ones. Private Press is a little more sneaky coveted, I guess you would say. But, when you pour or you make stuff that pours like that, kind of makes sense. So we're off to a really good start as far as the looks go. So yeah, the darkness, give it a whirl, that head will come back. So I always appreciate decent carbonation on these big boisterous barrel-aged beers. Let's get nose. Yeah, it's just gigantic. It's going to be really hard for me to sit here and kind of like, I'm breaking everything. I tried to get a fruit fly. Thank God I used these little cappy things. Man, I'm a shit show. I don't know why you guys watch. Anyway, it's going to be really hard for me to kind of break this down aromatically, and maybe we even want to get the taste, because this is a 2x4 to the face, volume on volume on volume when it comes to this. The beer is omnipresent here. It's always a great thing when it comes to these huge barrel-aged beers, because you have this huge 15%, pushing a super high ABV beer, and you expect it to be just super hot or super rich on the spirit side of things. And while that is certainly the case here, it definitely has spirit for days. Man, is this rich, decadent base stout here. It just comes off ultra roasty toasty, super huge Russian Imperial Stout, bittering based, multiple levels of chocolate. It's very much a desserty beer without having all those adjuncts kind of thrown into it, and then it's just like chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. I can talk about baker's chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate, a little bit of white chocolate, even like just a rich kind of milk chocolate. It's multiple levels to it, just not chocolate. It has so many different things going on to it. And with this roasty toastiness that has this big, huge, rich, bittering is the word I'm looking for here. It has to be to balance off what has to be a huge sweetness on this beer, 15%, huge spirit involved in it. So it needs that bittering to have those balance. You're definitely getting it even with just the aromatics here. On the flip side of things, very much a rich, dense, almost like a reduced kind of spirit here. Think about taking a really nice bourbon and just reducing it down in a pan to where it becomes more like plasma-esque rather than liquid. That's the kind of vibes you get just from the aromatics alone. You get that big spirit component. Again, hot, big, bold, but again, 15%. We expect that. We're not. It's not a burning. It's not a crazy over the top fusel kind of thing. You just know you're dealing with a big spirit, and there's a lot of barrel character going on here too, which is, I think is the holy trifecta when it comes to barrel aged beers. When you put those three things together, more importantly, when you put those three things together and they're all melded together and cohesive, we'll find about that more in the taste. Just has that rich barrel char, that rubbed charry chocolatiness, coconut, vanilla, all those bits and pieces you get from a really well done, really, really stellar done barrel aged beer. We're off to an extremely good start here. It looks the part, smells the part. Let's see if it tastes the part. Cheers, y'all. It's delicious. 100% delicious. It pours that jet black, that motor oil, that Florida 5C thick, but it's a little tricky there. It's never going to be infused with anything other than thick, but it's drinkable. It pulls off that cool little double fecta of being dense, but at the same time drinkable without being too hefty. You can tell I'm like the day after the festival, because my voice, I'm getting to like berry white tones here, and that's typically what happens when I'm screaming at the top of my lungs for 4 hours. I mean, again, the beer itself, outside of the spirit, outside of the barrel, is definitely there. Again, this rich, bittering Russian Imperial Stout as kind of base on it. Huge nutty characteristics to it too. Didn't really talk about that in nose, and thinking back, and I think it was there. I just didn't had too much to talk about, and I just didn't really dial into it. But when you actually drink it, there's just this roasted, chestnutty, roasted, hazelnutty kind of vibe to it, which is ultra appreciative when it comes to the beer, because it's just not malts. Now, listen, you can make all these big, huge, roasty, toasty stouts, and it just be a malt base, and it comes off fantastical. But again, we're talking about the best of multiple worlds here, which is a big, burly, barrel-aged stout that has depth to it, that has multiple levels to it, which is absolutely fantastic. And it just gives you that ultra sturdy, dense base that is absolutely needed when it comes to a world-class kind of barrel-aged stout. Man, I can't get over how much like nut characteristics I get from this. It is so effing cool because it just adds this extra dimension, this depth, and this nuance to the beer that you typically don't get at this volume, at this 2x4 to the face of just hair on fire barrel-aged goodness. Get the spirit side of things. Bourbon, I'm not going to sit here and talk about how I am knowledgeable in any sort of way when it comes to bourbon beer or bourbon spirits, let alone bourbon and beer, but it has this really nice kind of like cherry cordial, but a bit richer. Again, think about that kind of reduced, simmer down kind of bourbon characteristic I talked about on the nose. It falls through in the taste, and it has this just extra density, extra richness to it, extra spinal tappy kind of 211 kind of thing going on for it. And conversely, you kind of go into that barrel side of things. It's there. Everything's there. All the components are there. That rich barrel charriness that I always call it, like kind of like a rub that roasty, toasty barrel with a little bit of dark chocolate. That's the vibe that barrels. Really well done, expressive barrel-aged beers, stouts kind of give off. Has this big barrel characteristic with this nice vanilla component, this nice little coconut component. Again, not like the leader in the club as far as taste and all those kind of things, but it's definitely there. And it really comes down to that tasty note, or that critique, or whatever you want to call it, that I talked about right in the middle of this review, which is it cohesive? Is everything together? Because more often than not, a lot of these beers, you tend to have a beautiful beer, have a beautiful spirit, have a beautiful barrel character, but they're very individualized. They're not melded together as one, and this is very much that. It's It's aggressive. Again, 15% plus. It's aggressive. Would time serve this even a little bit better? I think it would. If I'm going to, talk about this beer being like one of the better barrel aged beers, yeah, it is right now. And it's a little bit tricky of a waiting game when it comes to these kind of beers. You wait a little bit too long, it might just get a little bit too disjointed at a certain point, but there is this kind of diagram where everything kind of comes together at the head. And I think this beer has time to grow. Is it going to be markedly better than what it is now? It might drop a little here, gain a little bit there, and absolutely get a little bit more cohesive. It's very much so. It almost sounds like I'm nitpicking at this point, and I pretty much am, because if I had this bottle and I cracked another one, I'd be totally okay cracking it. It's not like I say you should wait on this, but I'd be really curious to see where this beer lands, like in a year and a half amount of time from today. I don't know when this was originally released. It's like I said, it's volume 1 of the sound cycle, so you do that homework and you figure it out, and I'll look it up afterwards and I'll figure it out. But absolutely fantastic beer. Like, man, it's one of those things where let's just take availability and price point and just kind of set it over here on the side and talk about it. Is this one of the better barrel aged beers I've had as of late? Yes. Mount Rushmore status? Yes. Without a doubt. I don't need to say much after that. I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. You put this up against any other barrel aged stout. Is it the best of the best of the best? It could be. Maybe, a little here, better there, but on a certain day in a perfect time, you'd be hard pressed to find anything better than this. Just take the price point and availability, breading a pack. That's where these kind of jump the shark a little bit, and not so much that they're not worth it. Full disclosure, $57 I paid for this bottle. Well, I bought 2 bottles for 2 times 57. You do the math. I don't want to say the numbers. Typically when I get 2 bottles like this, once I get above like 25, pushing 30, it's really hard pill for me to swallow. Even for its rarity, even for its cachet. It was, this money was going to charity, end of the, bidding in a silent auction, everything about it, the vibes of the fest and all that stuff. I don't mind putting out a little bit extra money for those kind of things. And I got it, which was very nice. If I didn't get it, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. But I paid a price point that I was comfortable with in that moment for what it was, where it was going, and what I was getting in return. Does somebody look at this and go, you are crazy for spending $57 on a bottle of beer like this? Or does somebody say, that's crazy, I can't believe you got it for $57? I think you see both ends of the spectrum from people. You know what I mean? There's going to be people on the one side, some people on the other. But that's kind of where I think the conversations about these big, delicious barrel-aged beers go. Can I find something that orbits this beer's universe for half its price? Okay? Be fair, $23. Can I find something at this volume, you know what I mean, same size, whatever? I think I can. Is it going to be, like, as good? Negligible, very, very close. And that's where I think, beer becomes a little bit more of, like, what turns you on? What turns you on when it comes to beer? What do you covet when it comes to beer? Perfect example. And this is me showing where my loyalties lie. The silent auction, I was hyper focused on it not because of these beers, because there was a 5-bottle set. There was a old Brooklyn Handed Seal, which I can actually get still off a shelf in Jersey, crazy enough. There was a Sam Adams Triple Bock, a 95, not a 97 or 94. If it was 94, maybe I get a little bit saucy, but I love me the Triple Bock. I know it's polarizing. But I can get those. If I really wanted one of those, I can find one. Harvest Ale, JW Lee's Harvest Ale, 2008. I can get one of those for $10. Buy me. I can find those. 2 1992 pint-sized Thomas Hardy's. That's what I was focused on. So I was kind of like, I saw that silent auction. I'm like, I'm winning this. I don't care. That auction climbed to $350. That's too rich. My love for Thomas Hardy. I think it's the King F of S Mountain. Oh, King S of F Mountain, if we're going to say it correctly. And I just couldn't do it. I just, because, if I take that Hand and Seal, I take that Triple Block, I take that Harvest Ale Night, priced them out. Let's say we call it, for the sake of conversation, $80. I can get those for $80. All three of those. I think relatively easily. So you're talking about 350. Let's do the math there. Talk about $270. $270. You're talking about two Hardys for $270. I couldn't do it. But my brain shifted over here. Not to steal the spotlight away from this beer, but my brain shifted over these, and I'm like, for a pair of these for $112 or whatever it was for the pair, I didn't mind it in the moment. Now there's people, like I said, out there would be like, you got a deal, and some people think you're crazy. But in the grand scheme of things, if we take again rarity and price and put it off the side and just say, as far as barrel aged stouts go, you're going to be hard pressed to find much better than this. Honestly. And I'm really curious to see how this kind of one goes down against the other one. I have that Private Press side project Sound Cycle Volume 2 also in the mix. So we're definitely going to review that. I have capped this. I don't know if we're going to do a side-by-side with the cap versions, but in the grand scheme of things, it's absolutely fantastic. Mount Rushmore status for sure. Value and availability, pricey, boutique-y, that part, and just leave you with, if you like what we like these, if you love barrel aged imperial stout. I mean, you drink these and go, it's okay. I kind of think you're lying. It's just that good. Absolutely delicious. That's my 2 cents, man. Fun stuff. So there we go. Reviewing the books, absolutely epically well done. I cannot tell you how much this nutty characteristic kind of sent me a flutter, for the lack of a better term, and just the cohesiveness of the beer, which I think still has a little bit time to grow. Again, might lose a little bit here, gain a little bit there, but I think this beer is good now. Probably good when it was first bottled, and probably good for another year or two. So, absolutely fantastic stuff, and I'm glad I got to try it. I've reviewed side project stuff. I've had some Private Press, but I've never had them together. So, two what I would call kind of like, up there, barrel age programs in the country. It was really cool to try a collaboration of those two. And we have one more to do. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Massive Beers, if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff, Beer Massive, podcasting stuff. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a big, boisterous, barrel-aged beer right now. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of side project Private Press. Let me know all your thoughts down below. What's your side project jams? I had some side project stuff there that wasn't Private Press collabs. BBT, a couple of different things, absolutely fantastic. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Private Press? Have you had this series? Have you had this volume? Have you had volume number 2? I'll probably post them both together within relatively, maybe same day or day after another. Anyway, all your thoughts down below. Hopefully you enjoyed a review. Hopefully you're enjoying some big barrel aged beer right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers, y'all.